my turn signals. I want to make sure my headlights are not cracked or broken, and my turn signals are amber in color. I'm going to open my hood. All right, to open the hood, you're going to pull back on this, and this one you want to always make sure you lean it back. If you don't, when you close your hood, it's caught under it, and you have to reopen your hood. All right, to open the hood, you're going to grab up here the handle, put your foot here, and pull. As it's coming down, you want to put one hand up underneath it to support it. You don't want to let it go. You want it to come down easy. That way, if it comes too far and your straps are broken to hold it, you can push it back up, okay? Come around to this side. We start with this side first because it's the least stuff to worry about. On this side, we want to check overall condition. We want to check our alternator. We want to make sure it's securely mounted. All nuts and bolts are in place. We want to check the wires, connections, they're tight. There's no cut, frays, or bare wires. The alternator is belt driven. So we're going to check our belt. We want to make sure that our belt has no cuts or frays. And when we push on it, we want to make sure there's no more than 3/4 inches of play. Okay, we do not pull on this belt. If you put your fingers back there and pull and that belt turns, it can cut your finger off. So we push, okay? Next, we're going to check our water pump. Our water pump is down here. It's gear driven. We want to make sure it's securely mounted. There's no leaks. There's no leaks in the hoses coming in and out of the water pump. And they're securely fastened. We're going to check our hoses up here to make sure they're secure and not leaking also. Now we go to the other side. Watch the mirror as you go around. On this side, we're going to check overall condition again. We're going to start with our coolant level. We want to make sure it is between the min and the max. It's securely mounted and there's no leaks. All of the hoses coming in and out are securely fastened. There's no cuts, bulges, or leaks in the hoses. On this one, we'll come across, we see our dipstick. To check our oil, we would pull it, wipe it, reinsert it, pull it again, and look. We keep it pointed down so the oil don't run down the stick. You get an accurate reading. If it is not between the add and full mark, we would add as needed. We're going to check to make sure there's no leaks in that area also. Now, we're going to check our air compressor. We want to make sure it's securely mounted. There's no cracks or damages or audible leaks. It is gear driven. We want to check all the hoses coming in and out to make sure they're securely fastened. There's no audible leaks. There's no cuts or bulges or leaks in the hoses. We're going to check our power steering pump. We want to make sure it's securely mounted.
Is that right at the very...
The power steering pump is this right here.
Okay, got you.
Okay?
Thank you.
On this truck, that's where it is.
Okay.
Okay? We want to make sure it's securely mounted. There's no leaks. It is gear driven. All of the hoses coming in and out are securely fastened with no leaks. There's no cuts, bulges, or leaks in the hoses. Then we're going to go to our steering rod or shaft, whichever way you want to call it. We want to make sure it's securely mounted, it's not bent or damaged. We're going to check our U-joints. We want to make sure they're securely mounted, not excessively worn, and no debris caught in between. Then we're going to come to our gearbox. We want to make sure it's securely mounted, it's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. All nuts and bolts are in place. All of the hoses coming in and out are securely mounted. There's no cuts, bulges, or leaks in the hoses. Then we're going to come down. We're going to check our spring mounts. We want to make sure the spring mounts on the front and rear are securely mounted. They're not cracked, broken, or damaged. Check our spring leaves. Make sure they're not cracked or broken or shifted. We want to check our U-bolts to make sure they're securely mounted. The bolts and nuts are tight. No sign of slippage. We want to check.
Sign of slippage? I already know that, but for people who don't.
Huh?
Can you explain what this?
Signs of slippage would be like shiny metal, or see how it's dirty? If it was slipping, it would be clean. Okay? Now we come to our shock absorber. We want to make sure it's securely mounted. All nuts and bolts are in place. It's not bent, damaged, or leaking. Then we come back out here. We're going to check our pitman arm. We want to make sure it's not cracked or damaged. The castle nut, cotter pin are in place. And I would check my drag link, my steering knuckle, and tie rod the same way. The tie rod is the round bar that ties the two steer tires together. Okay? Then I'm going to come up. I'm going to check my air lines coming into my brake chamber. Make sure they're securely mounted. There's no cuts, bulges, or audible leaks. Check my brake chamber. I want to check to make sure it's not bent or damaged. No audible leaks and securely mounted. I'm going to check my slack adjuster and my push rod. I want to make sure it's securely mounted. All pins and cotter pins are in place. It's not bent or damaged. And if my brakes were released, I would pull on my slack adjuster. I should have no more than 1 inch of play.
Where's your slack adjuster?
Right here.
Okay.
Slack adjuster and push rod.
Okay, and
All
that
pins,
shouldn't
cotter
have
pins,
any
and
play?
it should have no more than 1 inch of play with the brakes released.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I'm going to come in to the inside of my tire. Y'all see how I've got back in and I turned my tire? That's because it's easier to see with your tires turned. Okay? I'm going to go inside. I want to check my brake pad. I want to make sure it's not excessively worn. I have at least a 1/4 inch pad. No excessive oil or grease in my brake drum. My brake drum is not excessively worn. There's no cracks more than 1/2 the width of the friction area. I'll check my inner rim for any cracks or illegal welds. I'm going to check my tires for any cuts, bulges, or separations. CBS. All right? No cuts, bulges, no separation from the rim. Check for even wear. At least 4/32 tread depth on my tire, my steer tires. Come out. I'm going to check my outside rim for any cracks or illegal welds. Check to make sure that all of my lug nuts are present. They're tight. There's no signs of rust streaks indicating looseness. Check my hub seal to make sure it's securely mounted, it's not leaking, and it has the proper fluid level. I've checked my valve stem to make sure it's not bent, damaged, no audible leaks. It has a cap, and the only proper way to check my tire pressure is with a tire pressure gauge.
How much pressure is supposed to be in the tires?
All tires have it written on it, okay? Because it's different. It varies.
And is that tire low, or is that just...
It's just the way it looks. Right. It's on here. Probably that real fine writing that you can't see unless you got your glasses on.
90 pounds?
It's usually about 100.